You have created a monster and it will destroy you. She's alive! Alive!
I am Dracula.
Welcome, Manorites. This is Scott Fenster from Monster Manor, on location this time, and we are live from Fantasm, Orlando, right across from Universal at the Doubletree. Have a very special guest with us, and if you are a Monster Kid, I'm going to take your Monster card if you don't know who this is. The beautiful Amanda Kruger, Beatrice, Boepple. We are excited to have you, and you have your friends with you.
I do. I got my baby. Never travel without my baby. Little Freddie here.
He's a little familiar, yes.
Yes, isn't he gorgeous?
Very pretty,
Does
yes.
he take after his mom or his dad's?
I'm going to say dad's. So, first of all, thank you for coming by to see us. I know you've been on a whirlwind trip. Where was it that you just got back from? Spain?
Yes, from Spain, from Mallorca, Spain, which is a gorgeous, stunning island. And anyone living on the East Coast, they have a one-way flight, a direct flight now suddenly from New York to Mallorca. So it made it really easy to get there. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. If you haven't been, go to Mallorca.
Well, you look very rested and beautiful and ready to tackle the crowd that's here at Fantasm for you, I'm sure.
Thank you.
So we were talking a little bit about your history, and you were in, of course, many movies. A Stakeout, we remember seeing you in that, and then of course, kind of Freddie took over your life for a little while there. After that, you went on a trip somewhere, and that kind of changed your direction. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, so after doing Elm Street, I had been prior to Elm Street, so I've had life before and after Elm Street. So, life prior to Elm Street, I'd been acting in Vancouver, British Columbia, doing lots and lots of films. I actually starred in the Canadian ones, Matinee and Quarantine, 1989, and did a lot of stuff. Then did Elm Street, and at the time, the guy I was having a long-term on and off relationship with, it just was not going anywhere, and to get away, I did what everyone does when you want to get away, and the relationship, I moved to India. That's what you do to get away. So, I had actually first went to Taiwan, I did some teaching there, and then from Taiwan I heard that my spiritual teacher was going to be in India, so I went to see her, and it actually was the ashram where Eat, Pray, Love was written. The pray part was about, she was actually writing it there, she was there when I was there. But anyway, I was in India, and I thought originally I would just stay for a couple weeks, and one day my teacher said, you stay here, work. And so I stayed there and worked, and I ended up living there for 2 years doing volunteer work on a mobile hospital, and it was life-changing. I mean, the mobile hospital work was amazing, and just seeing the strength of the people of India. So there's, for those of you who don't know, most people have heard of the caste system, but below the caste system, below the untouchables, not even part of the caste system, are the Adivasi, who are the natives of India. Just the way we have, our First Nations or Native Americans here, the Adivasi, the people that were originally there in India, and they own nothing. They're poorer than the poor, and so we go and serve them. And it was just life-changing to see this inner beauty and this inner strength that people who have absolutely nothing still maintain. And when living in an ashram too, the focus is always on who you are inside. So there were celebrities there. I won't name drop, but there were a lot of celebrities that would come, and then just anybody off the street would come, and it didn't matter. Like, again, what matters is who you are inside. So they nobody would talk about status. We all just wore, Indian clothing, and wherever you were, your job might be sweeping the leaves or cleaning up the toilets, and it's also where my love for the practice of yoga got strengthened. Because I was introduced to yoga when I was 5 years old. I was living in Japan for 4 years as a little girl, and my parents were into Buddhism at the time, and so we would have to sit for 1 hour meditations every Saturday. I was only 5 years old, and to have to sit, for a full hour. I mean, imagine that. And in Japanese Zen Buddhism, the monks come around and they have this little bamboo clacker, and you're sitting, and if your mind starts to wander or you start to fidget, they go whack on your shoulders. I mean, it's not painful, but it's just shocking. It wakes you up again. So it was a pretty strong practice. So I kind of had a background, of being able to focus my mind, but being reintroduced to yoga just kind of really inspired that love again. And so after 2 years of working in the ashram, and by working I mean volunteer work, but also the main work is working on yourself, getting to know yourself, and getting rid of all kinds of layers that we all have. I woke up one morning and decided this is the work that I want to do. I'm going to give up acting. I'm going to give up relationships. I'll be celibate. I'll become a monk. I truly, in my heart of hearts, wanted to devote my life to my spiritual work. And so that was just a thought that I had inside myself. I didn't say it out loud to anybody. And that very day, one of the monks came over and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "The Guru wants you to leave." And I got kicked out. I got kicked out of the ashram that day.
No.
Yeah, and it was on July 4th, Independence Day, kind of interesting. And she actually gave me a gift. She gave me this beautiful little picture of a butterfly, and it was kind of like, and she said that I had karma out in the world. And so I was kind of floored. I didn't know what to do, and they sent me the one-way ticket to New York, where they also have another ashram. And I was from LA, or from the West. I don't know where I'm from. I've lived all over the world, but the last place before had been LA, and I'd never been to New York before, so I didn't really know what to do, and I had to get a job. And one thing led to another, but ended up meeting a man who became my husband. We bought a beautiful house in the country, and I ended up, my basement flooded. We had to rebuild it, and I said, let's make a yoga studio. And so we made a yoga studio, and I got my yoga teacher certification and started teaching yoga. And I've had that yoga studio for the past 17 years. I learned street yoga. So, yeah.
So that's amazing to me that there was one event that changed the whole course of your life, and you're probably happier than if you would have been, a lifelong, actress.
Yeah.
But that's amazing, and what's even more amazing is that you listened to that call, and you didn't let it change you either. I mean, you continue to learn and to grow, and to this day you're still practicing the yoga and teaching it to others. So since we're at this show, I definitely want to talk about what's going on for you with your readings, because you have a new book as well. That's an extension of you, but a different you, an alternate universe you, Amanda Kruger.
Right.
So you get to play in two different worlds: the world of reality and then the world that you acted in. And you made that role famous. So tell us a little bit about the book, first of all, and what we can expect of Fantasm.
Okay. Well, so the book is called The Kruger's Curse: Nightmare Before Elm Street, and I often mistakenly say Nightmare Before Christmas, but no, yes, Nightmare Before Elm Street, which actually one of my fans, Facebook friends, suggested that name. So I'm not giving him a shout out, but I can't think of his name. He'll come to me and he'll yell at me. But anyway, you know who you are.
We'll put it in the comments if we think of it.
Yeah, if we think of it. Anyhow, but I thought that was a great name because, as an actor, we all, when you have a role, part of the actor's job is to come up with their history, because every character has life before they show up on stage or on screen. And so, I had created a backstory for Amanda, more than what was in the film. And then obviously the more time I've been spending in the world of Elm Street with fans and just revisiting this iconic series, Amanda's story just really was kind of like knocking at the door for me, because she's his mother, and it's a tragic, really tragic character. And in number 5, I think people can see the intention. Like, she wasn't happy having to destroy him. She knew she had to destroy him, but what mother is ever joyful having to kill their own son? And she's a nun, and she, and she actually didn't want to give him up, and that's the part of the story that I really wanted to get out there. And then also with Nightmare on Elm Street, until number 6, you don't really know too much of the backstory of anybody. Number 6, I think, puts a lot of it out there, right, with the flashbacks. So you see that Freddy was raised by Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
And we see that Alice Cooper beat the heck out of him, and what was that about? Like, what was Alice Cooper? Why was he beating this kid, and what was going on between them? What was Amanda's relationship when she gave him up for adoption? What was that about? Who made that famous sweater?
Right.
Why do those skip rope girls always show up? So I kind of fill in those blanks from Amanda's point of view. So there's a lot of, the book I think is really, I don't know that it's a standalone book. Like, if you weren't an Elm Street fan and if you didn't know the story, I don't really know that it would mean much to people, but I think for fans it's going to mean a lot because it's got all those little things tied in, with my imagination background of it, filling in where Wes Craven, unfortunately he's not alive to say yes or no to those ideas. But I didn't do anything in my book. I don't go against anything that's in any of the films. Like, I kind of go with what we're shown in the films and flush it out and just kind of give it more depth. So I don't think it would be, I don't think any fan would go, oh, right, that's not right, because I just go with it, but I just pull it out. I mean, is it that big of an imagination to think that Amanda made him that sweater? No, she's his mom, But would he keep that sweater, and why that one? That it's in the book, and and her curse background comes up. So I think it's kind of, I think it's interesting. I made 100 of them originally, just 100 copies, and when I announced it to my fans, they all sold out before I even got them from the printer. So I did do a second printing, so I had another 100. So I think I have about 80, which I'm not going to make more after that, but they're just there to give out, for fans at the shows that you purchase. And tonight, here at Fantasm, I'm actually going to be doing a reading in full costume in Amanda's outfit, which was made for me by a beautiful fan out in California, as Ezreal Arena. He made me this authentic costume and sent it to me, which was amazing. So I'll be wearing that, and I think the Fantasm folk have created, a nice little atmosphere in the room. They're going to make it a little dark and a little candelabra, so you can really feel like Amanda is talking to you, telling her story. So that's a treat for tonight. Anyone in the Orlando area, come to Fantasm and meet Amanda and hear her backstory.
It's going to be absolutely amazing. I would definitely encourage you to do that. And if you're not in Orlando, call your Orlando friends and tell them about this as well. Get the word out there for this. Because this is a one-of-a-kind opportunity. You have Amanda Kruger, who played the character, creating fan fiction that has probably more fact to it than the average Joe. So, I mean, this is definitely going to be historic. Did you ever have any idea when you were shooting Nightmare that it would be this kind of legacy?
Not a clue. I mean, honestly, most of the other actors I've talked to also, none of us had any idea the long-lasting effect that this franchise would have. The Robert Englund and Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Like, we knew that Freddy Krueger was, pretty famous already by 5, but I don't know. Nobody thought 30 years ahead that this would still be, that people would still be interested in it. And I certainly, I had no idea. And it also never really hit me. Like, you're playing Freddy Krueger's mother. Like that, I mean, I knew I was, but, and I'm glad I didn't really realize how iconic a role that was, because I think I would have been, like, really intimidated had I really thought about it. I hadn't thought about it, thank goodness. So I was just like, I just played this mother and, really got into that character. But I'm glad I didn't realize, because I think it would have been too daunting had I known. And I'm just so grateful, and I'm so grateful to the fans. And I say it in my book. I dedicated my book to the fans because 100%, if it wasn't for the fans, this wouldn't be existing. Like, it would have been a movie that was done 30 years ago, and maybe once in a while somebody might replay it, but that it has such a life that people still love everything to do with Elm Street and are buying, pictures and posters and buttons and lining up for 10,000 miles to see my son Robert Englund. Is a testament to Robert, but it's a testament to the fans' loyalty, in what was created. And it's an honor to be a part of it, and I realize that more and more as I get older and wiser.
And that's the thing. I mean, that series survived where a reboot couldn't, and the magic just wasn't there. And it's nothing against the people that made that new reboot, but you look at everything, and it's just, it can't hold a candle to that original series. There was something special, whether it was God's own hand or Wes Craven's hand. His team. It was just something special. It was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And to be a part of that, and then 30 years later, you see that people are still so in love with that genre and that world that was created.
Yeah.
Even so much that he was on the Goldbergs.
Right.
They brought him back on a comedy show.
Right? Isn't it? It's crazy. Yeah. And then. By the way, so my little.
You guys got to move.
I don't know if you can see my earrings here, but it's my little baby Freddy earrings, which were made by David Hogg, who is a cosplayer of Elm Street, of Freddy Krueger, and he does other things too. But anyway, and Stranger Things, everyone, you saw Robert on that, right?
It was amazing,
wasn't it? Yeah. So it was great seeing him there, and I mean, so it's really, I mean, Robert Englund is a massively huge part of this, of course. Like, he's different than all the other characters. He's different than all the other horror guys that don't talk and have to wear a mask and stuff. He really brought this to life, and it's him. It's Wes Craven and his incredible, imagination and his vision. And then I think too, just a lot of it might be just the crazy frenetic times in the 80s where so many of these episodes were just being rushed through, which forced crazy amounts of creativity on the artists that brought the sets and the costumes and the lighting and the special effects together. Which we have some of those folks here, Mick Strom and Mick and Nick. I always get them mixed. Mick Strom,
and
Nick,
Scott,
and Benson and Scott right here. So it was a crazy, wacky time, and I think that was part of it. Like, it wasn't slick, it wasn't, although I think what you guys pull off with this low budget in some cases, and certainly with really limited amount of time, there's some kind of magic that it's just different. I absolutely adore, for example, the Planet of the Apes, the recent 3, which a dear friend of mine, actress Karen Tonneval, who's smaller than I am, and she plays Maurice, the orangutan, which people are like, what? It's a girl? Yeah, it's a girl. She plays it. And those are phenomenal, and to see that mocap, right, motion capture, is magical and phenomenal. But it's a different thing. Like, it's very clean and slick. It's magical in its own way to see, like, apes actually really talking and such. But that's a new thing. The 80s, that sort of dirty, fly by the pants, creative craziness was something special, right?
Yeah, it was guerrilla filming,
Right.
especially that genre, because nobody knew that it was going to be valued like it is nowadays.
Right.
I mean, all of you guys that were a part of that genre are royalty.
Right.
I mean, shows like mine exist because of you guys, and an homage and a thank you to what you've done and contributed to our lives. Because without those films, and for me personally, the Elm Street films, I don't know if I would be doing what I do today. I don't know if I would be doing that creative thing, because it fueled such fire from Howard Berger to, all of the special effects artists that handled the makeup, because they changed, but they were always significantly their own.
Right.
And the storyline, and like you said, the set design. So thank you for your contribution to the genre and making it more interesting. I always loved the character, and the fact that you have this new book is going to give that other facet. So I look forward to checking that out.
Thank you. And I would encourage all the number 5 Dream Child leaders out there, and I know there are plenty of you, watch it again as an adult. Just watch it again, because everyone kind of jumped down 5. People kind of hated 2 and 5 are the ones, and 2 is actually like Mark is like doing better than anyone right now, and the Elm Street franchise is a sweetheart, and his time has finally come. you know, and people have a different realization now and are really embracing number two.
Great Netflix special, I believe it is.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, I'll be with him next week in Gettysburg at Creature Feature. Those of you who are around there couldn't be here. But number 5 too, you know, just got a lot of hate from people for some reason, and I look at it, and not just because there was this amazing lady that played Amanda Kruger, I mean, she was like phenomenal, but even besides her, those sets, like those gothic sets, those dark, I don't know, and those really creative kills, you know, like the cartoon and turning into a motorcycle, and I mean, even the most I mean, I can't stand Eric, because I'm so sorry, I love you, Erica, but that death. When he's feeding her own stomach is a little bit much for me. Probably the one reason I didn't let my kids watch 5 when they were younger. But you know, I thought it was really, really well done. I thought it was a very creative one, and you know, I just would encourage people, if you haven't seen 5 in a long time and you think you hate it, just watch it again. Just watch it again. And if you still hate it, fine, but you might feel differently.
Yes, and what better authority to school you and tell you to look at it again? Because I guarantee you, I've seen it recently, and you do see it with different eyes. It's a more mature film, a lot more complex than it was when we saw it as youth.
Right.
And you only get that from age and living through some of this stuff. But you see how Amanda had to deal with that, and there were alternatives. She chose to have Freddie born, which was awesome at the time.
Yeah. So. Again, for that kind of to delve into that, you know, buy the book.
Yes.
Come hear me talk about it tonight, because you know, it's complex, I think, and it just adds a depth to the story that I think, if you're a real Freddie fan, it just gives you more. You know, we all want more, right? And it just gives you
a new perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I can't wait to see it. We want to be very respectful of her time, but please come see her if you're in the Orlando area, or Gainesville, or Ocala, or any of the, any of the Tri-County area around here. Tell your friends and come out and check it out. A lot of other guests coming up, and if you are a fan of the genre, this is the place to be this weekend. So I would like to thank you again, Amanda, for coming by and sitting with us for a little while. And we'll definitely catch up again soon. But we hope you have a really, really good show this week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on the show. And thank you for what you do. It's been great chatting with you. And yes.
Listen to mommy.
That's right.
You have created a monster and it will destroy you. She's alive! Alive!
I am Dracula.
Hey Monster Kids, thanks for hanging out for another episode of Monster Manor. Do us a favor though and hit the bell to get reminders of when we add new content. Subscribe to our channel, and while you're waiting for new shows, check out our website at www.monstermanor1313.com. New content at least every other week, sometimes even more often. Like and follow our Facebook page as well for other content. And lastly, if you want to help us out, check out our Patreon under Monster Manor with Scott Fenster. Thanks for hanging out until the end.